Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
The whole world must see that Israel must exist and has a right to exist and is one of the great outposts of democracy in the world.
My Jewish brothers and sisters said to me amid anti-Semitism anywhere, and we don't need your support. I would still take a stand against anti-Semitism because it's wrong, it's unjust, and it's evil.
Well, those are the words of Martin Luther King Jr., and we're going to talk a little bit about this topic because is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism, as we all know it really is? And that is because anti-Semitism, as it is defined, is causing a huge backlash amongst the left wing in America. And we'll talk about how several Western governmental agencies, including the Foreign and Justice Ministries of the U.S., Britain, and Germany, have policies that deem anti-Zionism a discriminatory practice that uniquely denies Jews the right to govern themselves, and it's going to hit here in America very soon. This debate's going on in Britain. It's traumatized its left-wing Labor Party. It's challenged its leader, Jeremy Corbyn, a long-known Jew hater, who himself has been accused of anti-Semitism by numerous British dignitaries, including members of his own party and former Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. It's coming to America. Now, this is not going to be the only topic. I realize this is not a topic that's on everyone's lips. Welcome to the Savage Nation, but I thought you should hear the great voice of the great man Martin Luther King Jr., because I heard him speak live. I believe it was in 1968. I was a young teacher in New York City, and I went to UN Plaza, and I got to tell you, I was moved by him. I was so moved by him, and I saw things that day that I'll never forget. And so I thought I should play that during this time, because I myself am in a strange state this week. I go through a very strange state during this time in my religion where I transcend the state of normalcy and I enter into another world where I see things I normally can't see. I don't mean like angels flying around. I just see things more clearly. I see several dimensions beyond my normal dimensionality. In other words, I go into a transcendental state naturally without drugs. And I know people don't believe it, but that's okay. You don't have to believe what I say. All you got to do is listen and think for yourself. And it leads us to a number of questions, which I'm going to talk about today. But before I do, first I want to thank you so much for listening to my program, because if it was not for listeners like you, there'd be no Savage Nation. And after 25 years, this March, that's a big deal. That's a very long time, and each step along the way has been a miracle. If I ever tell you the story in an autobiography of how impediments have been put in my way and how my career almost came to an end many times, but because of intervention from other dimensions, I'm still here, well, you'll see what a novel that would make, because it wouldn't be a novel. It would be nonfiction, not fiction. But I'm very, very satisfied today because after all these months of waiting, my first copy of Stop Mass Hysteria is in my hands. And one thing I got to say is this is the most beautiful book out there. It's the only way to counter the Woodward book, frankly. I wish it was in the stores because I know we can't stop the avalanche of left-wing liars out there rushing for that loser's book. I mean, after all, who was Bob Woodward? Some old hack who wrote one book on Watergate 150 years ago, and whatever he puts out against America or against Trump is suddenly considered the Holy Grail. But Stop Mass Hysteria is the most important political book of the season. America's Insanity, from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt. But unlike my other books, look, I'm not desperate about this. I know that my audience is going to go buy this book, period. So it's not like, oh, will it sell? Yes, of course it will sell. Will it be as big as a left-wing book attacking Trump? Absolutely not. We're living in ruinous times where I cannot get one media booking, including that on Fox News. That's how shameful they have become, that a book of this importance will not be broadcast on Fox News because of one person who is so jealous of me and so frightened of his exposure about how empty he really is. But I don't want to be negative. I want to read you something. For the first time in all of my books, I've gone past the political into the historical. So when I write about America's insanity from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt, I'm going to read you one paragraph to show you where I'm coming from. You're going to find out that this book is a teaching experience, a learning experience. I'm talking about a time in history, many times in history, but I'm talking about, remember when we renamed French fries Freedom Fries in 03? Remember we called French fries Freedom Fries after France disapproved of the U.S. invasion of Iraq? You remember that. 2003, popularly we call French fries Freedom Fries because France said you could not fly over France to Iraq, remember? Well, guess what? That was not the first time this had happened. On page 178 of this most important book I've ever written, here's what I write. In 1914, sauerkraut was out. The pickled vegetable was now called Liberty cabbage. Frankfurters became hot dogs, and dachshunds were renamed Liberty pups. German hospitals in New York and Chicago were rechristened Lenox Hill and Grant. Even German measles, which in theory should have been left alone to carry the stigma of illness, was renamed Liberty Measles. Streets bearing names of German towns or leaders were given names to celebrate Americans, such as Pershing or Wilson. Ironically, the revered John J. Pershing, who became commander of our forces during World War I, was of German heritage, his family name having been Forschen. Syracuse, New York, went a symbolic and idiotic step further, issuing a ban on the card game Pinochle because of its roots in the German game Binocle. But in the growing hysteria of the early 20th century, these moves were seen as anything but silly. And I'll stop right there. Actually, I'm not going to stop right there because I'm going to read you something that Theodore Roosevelt said in 1915 in an address to the Knights of Columbus to denounce all conflicting loyalties in America. He didn't like the hyphenated American. Here's what Teddy Roosevelt said in 1915, and it's so telling for today. Maybe the folks at Google ought to listen. Maybe they can learn something in their arrogance. The one absolutely certain way of bringing this nation to ruin, of preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all, would be to permit it to become a tangle of squabbling nationalities, an intricate knot of German Americans, Irish Americans, English Americans, French Americans, Scandinavian Americans, or Italian Americans, each preserving its separate nationality, each at heart feeling more sympathy with Europeans of that nationality than with the other citizens of the American Republic. This is all in my most important book to date, Stop Mass Hysteria. It'll be out in a few weeks, but you can order it in advance on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. And I hope you do to move it up on the list because somebody has to do something to counter, one, the vacuity of the books that are out there, number one, and number two, the propaganda of the books that are out there. And while I am banned by all media, including your favorite friends at Fox News, despite their protestations to being conservative, you still hold all the cards in whether or not the American people will see the words Stop Mass Hysteria on the Major League bestseller list. But I think what I just read to you about Freedom Fries being copied from Liberty Cabbage or whatever is something unique. It is not derivative. It is not the normal garbage that people publish about liberals and liberal bashing. It's super literate. It's a very important piece of history. And if you want one book in your library this year, there's really only one book to buy, and that's Stop Mass Hysteria. It's that simple, and you'll hear a lot more about it over the next few weeks as we get closer to publication on October 2nd. This is Michael Savage, and I have some other things we're going to talk about on the program today. By the way, if you want to win a free hardcover copy of Stop Mass Hysteria, all you've got to do is post the best one-liner about this book, and those who get the most likes will win a free copy. I have it on Twitter and Facebook, so you can go there, and you can, give me your one-liners. Whoever gets the most hearts wins. It's that simple. And so far we have no win. We have a couple of winners. Here's a guy who's got eight likes. It says, if it's a Savage, it's got to be good. Got hysteria. You can count on Savage for relief. If only they made a pill called Stop Mass Hysteria. He says, I want to convert my insane liberal friends and family members. I need this book and frankly want you to send me one. Anyway, you get the picture. And Virgil Salazzo says, buy the book. It's the best in the city. That's from Paulie Cigars de Silvio. I like that one. You know that I actually do read my Twitter comments, and I try to weed out the haters as fast as possible. I have others who do that first because it's pointless to fall into the trap of the left. Well, here are some of the questions. You know, I was thinking about it. Am I the only host in America, the only talk show radio host who asks questions of the audience to trigger response and dialogue? I don't know if I am because I don't have the time to listen to others. But I'm starting to believe that a lot of others are afraid to ask you questions for fear that they won't know the answers and they won't know how to counter you because they work off scripts. They work off scripts. They have prepackaged pablum for you to listen to, and they lecture you on subjects like you're a dummy. I prefer, a dialogue, interchange, stuff like that. By the way, yesterday, what did I say about the storm? I said, it'll probably blow out to sea like most of them do. Remember that? Did it take a genius to say that? I said it to you. They panicked the nation. The same media that's panicking the nation against Donald Trump. The same media that's panicking the nation about so many things panicked you about a hurricane that's about to blow out to sea. Largely blow out to sea. They made it sound like a hydrogen bomb was about to hit the Carolinas. But did it? No. Why? It's called tabloid journalism. It's called yellow journalism. It's called scare the population day and night to make them buy your newspaper. It's all about scaring you into buying things. And there are many ways to manipulate you. One is through fear. Another one is through guilt. So if you now call illegal aliens, Google will ban you. Did you hear that one? If you actually say that people who are here illegally, and they're illegal aliens, which is a federal designation, they will ban you or block you. So why don't you just call them non-citizens? Non-citizens. Does that work, or will that also offend Sergey Brin? By the way, who is Sergey Brin and where did he come from? How did this man, Sergey Brin, become so powerful? Is he even with Google? I think he is. Who is this guy? And how did these individuals become so powerful where they're larger than most governments on the planet? And why is it that our government doesn't protect us from these social media giants, which are really public utilities, by putting in place the equivalent of the FCC, and as I said yesterday, we could call it the Social Communications Commission, where a board of 5 to 10 people would oversee them so they don't become dangerous in the sense that they start controlling and, let us say, blocking us for political opinions they don't approve of, or using their platforms purely to promote their own agenda. Now, look, I have a website, when you think about it, called michaelsavage.com. It's tiny, of course, but I control what's on it. It's mine. It's private. So I don't let people put things on it that I don't want. So you could say, well, Twitter, it's a website. Facebook is a website. Google is a website. It's theirs. They can do what they want. Well, up to a point, that is true. But if my website had become as large as any of those, and people were counting upon michaelsavage.com for most of their information, and it was a sort of monopoly, then it would not be only a private enterprise. At that point, it would become something different, which is what Google, Facebook, and Twitter and the others have now become. They are part of the public dialogue, and as such, the federal government must create a social communications commission along the lines of the FCC, which will meet regularly to make certain that they stay within the bounds of freedom. This is Michael Savage. Stop mass hysteria.
Savage.
On the 25th of June, 2018, I did a monologue entitled The Right Doesn't Fight. Many of you are wondering why. Why are we alone in our battles in this country? Why do we feel outnumbered? Why don't we have the media on our side? Why don't we have the government, even the Republicans, on our side? Well, I asked the same question when I stated The Right Doesn't Fight in June, and I said I have a book coming out called Stop Mass Hysteria, and I wish it were out right now. Now we have Maxine Waters actually inciting violence in front of a crowd of people, asking for them to harass Trump administration members. And she doubled down on it, which we played for you the other day. You had a DHS director, Kristen Nielsen, harassed during dinner. We had the Republican Attorney General of Florida being harassed at a movie theater. And I asked, where does this end? I can tell you it doesn't end well. Well, just the other day, a madman in San Francisco, in the San Francisco area, pulled out a switchblade and tried to stab a GOP individual. And somewhere in America, a Republican campaign headquarters was set on fire, not covered by the Marxists in the newspaper business. And I said, this is the classical definition of what mass hysteria is, and we know what's coming next. The mass hysteria is reaching epic proportions now. We've seen it with the immigration story about parents and children being separated at the border. Time magazine and other far-left news outlets run a picture of a child crying while officials detain the mother. But they all neglect to address the fact that this child was not separated from the mother. The media for weeks had gone on about this policy while ignoring the fact that Obama enforced the same exact policy until he told his DOJ to stop enforcing the law. Obama's own DHS Director Jay Johnson even admitted they did the same thing, yet the media was silent during that administration. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders goes to dinner with a family, and the restaurant tells her to leave because she works in the administration. That, by the way, is the same as a baker who doesn't want to make a cake for a gay wedding. They have the right, but that doesn't make it right. But let's look at what the reaction to these events are. Maxine Waters is being praised as a superhero on the left. Some of her colleagues are standing with her and supporting her comments, which promote harassment and violence. But you hear nothing on the right. Why is Paul Ryan, as Speaker of the House, not called for her censure? Why is everyone on the right being silent about Maxine Waters provoking violence? Why? Because the right doesn't fight. This is why Trump got elected, by the way. He was flawed. He had policies that went against the grain. He said things in a way presidents hadn't before, but he was a fighter. And that's why we voted for him. Trump is a fighter, and he's our leader.
Savage.
There are those who said that we lacked civility when I got up and talked about the president's cabinet, and I said, if you see him anywhere, if you see him at a restaurant, if you see him in a department store, even at a gasoline station, just tell him you're not welcome here anywhere. And so it frightened a lot of people. And of course, the lying president said that I had threatened all of his constituents. I did not threaten his constituents, his supporters. I do that all the time, but I didn't do it that time.
Now, they vote, by the way. She has the same vote as you, even if you're a medical doctor or a PhD or you've contributed a great invention to society. And I keep asking, why is the right unable to fight? And the answer here is to shut down your ideas. The left makes public spectacles that they can show the world. And let's look at Maxine Waters and what she's been doing. In criminal law, incitement is defined as encouraging another person to commit a crime. Threatening the president is a felony under U.S. Code Title 18, Section 871. It consists of knowingly and willfully mailing or otherwise making any threat to take the life of, to kidnap, or to inflict bodily harm upon the president of the United States. Well, she didn't do that, did she? No. But what about her inciting people to verbally assault anyone who works for Donald Trump or any supporter of the president? Well, Title 18, Section 871 also includes presidential candidates and former presidents. U.S. Code 2101 says whoever travels in interstate or foreign commerce or uses any facility of interstate or foreign commerce, including, but not limited to, the mail, telegraph, telephone, radio, television, with intent to incite a riot. Well, that's a close one. Or to organize, promote, encourage, participate in, or carry on a riot. Ferguson. Or to commit any act of violence in furtherance of a riot. George Soros's front groups. Or to aid or abet any person in inciting or participating in or carrying on a riot, or committing any act of violence in furtherance of a riot, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. Is that not what the left is doing? A few years ago, I read a book called Stop the Coming Civil War. And what I wrote seems to be more ahead of its time than I could have imagined. We are on the brink of a civil war unless this mass hysteria can be contained. And the best way to contain it is to invoke the law against George Soros's followers as they cross state lines to incite violence or riots. Because remember, every last one of them is funded by some group, and most of these groups are funded by only a few left-wing fanatics. This is very important for all of us, my friends. 855-400-7282. Sergey Brin. Sergey Brin, Sergey Mikhailov Brin. Sergey Mikhailovich Brin, born August 21, 1973, is an American computer scientist and internet entrepreneur. Together with Larry Brin, he co-founded Google. Brin is the president of Google's parent company, Alphabet, Inc. As of June 2018, he's one of the 10th richest person in the world, estimated net worth of $52 billion. Brin immigrated to the United States with his family from the Soviet Union at the age of 6. I guess he's a good Russian. I guess he's one of Nancy Pelosi's good Russians. He earned his bachelor's at University of Maryland, College Park, following in his father's and grandfather's footsteps by studying mathematics as well as computer science. After graduation, Sergey Brin enrolled at Stanford, got a Ph.D. in computer science. There he met Larry Page, with whom he later became friends. They crammed a dormitory room with inexpensive computers and applied Brin's data mining system to build a web search engine. The program became popular at Stanford, and they suspended their Ph.D. studies to start up Google in a rented garage. Now, the left wing refers to Brin as an enlightened man. He's an enlightened man who hates the right, hates conservatives, hates nationalism, and yet he's organized the world's information in a way that is extremely worrisome. He thinks he's always right, and we all know where that leads. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Through his 8-year marriage to Anne Wojcicki, the founder of 23andMe, oh, God, that's where you spit in the jar. He was the former brother-in-law of Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube. So you see the interlocking corporate directorships? His father is a math professor at the University of Maryland, and his mother a researcher at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. That's a brilliant family, if only they turn their brilliance to the common good instead of a left-wing fanaticism. Well, Sergey Brin is a brilliant young guy, and I'm all for brilliant young guys who make a fortune. I'm totally behind it. However, when their fortune starts to interfere with my freedom of speech, I get really worried, and I hope that the government steps in. Okay? 855-400-7282. 855-400-SAVAGE. Here's some other topics. The storm blew out to sea as I predicted. Is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism? You betcha. Should Maxine Waters be removed from Congress for inciting violence? You betcha. Have you been abused by a priest? Now, the reason I ask that again is because 44,000 women are pressing the Pope over sex abuse. Catholics, have you left the church over this or another reason? It's a huge story. That's a huge, huge story. Here's another minor one, rather absurd, but a rat found in broth wipes $190 million off restaurant chain's value. A hot pot restaurant in China, one of the biggest things. And what a hot pot restaurant is you go in, and there's a bubbling vat of simmering broth on your table, and you dip pieces of raw meat and vegetables into the vat. Well, unfortunately, a customer fished out a rat. A video of a small dead rat, boiled, gelatinous, and with its stunted arms outstretched, fished out of a vat of bubbling broth, has shocked China and sends shares of a popular restaurant chain plummeting. Well, I won't read the name of the chain. It's unimportant. But you know what I think about food like that, don't you? I don't know. Maybe it'll become a fad amongst the new left in America to eat rat broth. Maybe they'll find a secret cure for something with rat broth, as they have with cryogenics. Incidentally, I read it. I told you I did this yesterday. It was a great show on Mark Wahlberg's exercise regimen. He's tremendous. I mean, I admire him. I could never do it. Gets up at 2:30, prays for 30 minutes. He eats like turkey balls, then chicken, carrot sticks. Well, I had a lot of beer last night for dinner, so I also got up at 2:30. I looked at the clock. I had to get the beer out of my system. And I actually thought of going and having a prayer session and some turkey balls, but instead I went right back to sleep. Then at 6:30, when Mark Wahlberg is already on to, I don't know what he's eating by then, turkey necks, and he's working out in the cryogenic bath, whatever he's doing, I stretched and looked at the San Francisco Bay, and I said, I really should get out and put on a wetsuit and go paddle boarding, at which point I got back under the warm covers, and it felt great because the mattress was still hot. And frankly, I feel good today. I feel inflamed as normal. I like my inflammation. I think it's good for me. I don't know what this obsession is. Everything's obsessive. First, it was a phase, no gluten. Then they went from no gluten to no nightshades. Then they went from no nightshades to freezing yourself in a cryogenic bath. What will the next fad be? Eating rats in a hot pot broth in Shanghai? Well, you'll have to stay tuned to see which way the American left goes, since they're like a weather vane that doesn't know north from south, east from west. Let's take some callers on the program. What do we have here now? All right. KFAY Radio in Arkansas. Val on line 3. What's on your mind?
Hi, Dr. Savage. It's an honor to talk to you and to listen to you on the radio every day. I wasn't really high on Trump or Hillary, and I really haven't been a very good citizen because I've been real discouraged with voting and all that stuff. But I'm going to go register to vote because of you in November, and I just hope I don't get hit by tomatoes or eggs or anything like that.
Wait a minute. Who are you going to vote for when you vote?
I'm not sure yet. I mean, I know I'm going to vote Republican.
Wait. What city do you live in?
Pardon me? Just our local.
No. Which city do you live in?
Fayetteville.
Okay. And normally you vote Democrat?
No. Normally it was Republican, and like I said, I have been discouraged ever since.
All right. So you're going back to Republicans now. Why? Because you feel it's the only hope?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Tell you what, if you could name the title of my new book, I'll send you a free copy, but you got to do it immediately. What's the name of my new book?
It is Mass Hysteria. Something mass.
Yeah, okay, you win. It's really Stop Mass Hysteria, but if you stay in the line, you'll get it anyway. No, I'm going to send her 2/3 of the book because she only got 2/3 of the title right. So we're going to rip out the last third of the book and throw it in the trash can, and you're going to get the first 2/3 of the book for free. Jim, take the young lady's name. No, we'll send her a whole book. We're not going to send her 2/3 of a book. Marilyn on WABC, so nice to hear from you. Thank you for the call.
Hi, how are you, Michael? I just wanted to bring up the point that, you're just showing like Maxine Waters. She doesn't represent everyone in the Democratic Party whatsoever. In fact, most of us are embarrassed by her. And you don't highlight any of the level-headed ones. And Trump has done many of the same things as Maxine, such as bringing up
okay. Let's take that at face value. Has Trump said go out if you see a supporter of Democrats and confront them and chase them out of a restaurant?
What about the Second Amendment when he was campaigning against Hillary?
What, did he tell them to chase Hillary supporters out of restaurants?
Well, my point is that he...
Well, the point is you lost the chess match already. Now, you sound like a nice person, and it's okay to be a Democrat and listen to the show and draw your own opinions, which I assume you're a Democrat, right?
Yes, I am.
So you like illegal aliens? You want more of them in the country?
But
No, let's go down the list. The number one issue in America is immigration. So as a good liberal Democrat in New York, and I respect your opinion, can you explain to me what it is that you like about more immigrants? Do you know, and you got to hear this now, this is a very important story. The level of immigration now is the highest it's been in 108 years. 108 years. The share of the U.S. population born abroad hits a 108-year peak. Do you think that that's a healthy thing for America?
No, I do believe that we have to have immigration reform and immigration and look at the whole...
So you're actually a conservative Democrat of the old school. You're like a JFK Democrat, I would say, aren't you?
Excuse me?
You're like a John F. Kennedy Democrat.
Well, I don't think I'm very liberal. I think I'm more,
So you're a moderate Democrat. Well, tell me the name of a moderate Democrat in New York City or New York State. Would it be Mr. Cuomo?
Is Al Sharpton's tactics.
Oh, you would vote for Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson?
Well, Jesse Jackson, I can take him a little more than Al Sharpton. But my point is that...
You know what? I like you. I like your call. But I really don't think... I think you're a little confused about what your politics actually are. If you are not, let's say, intimidated by the word Republican, you'd probably vote for a moderate Republican today, but you'd probably be afraid to lose all your friends. And there goes the canasta game that you've lived with for the last 80 years. Thank you very much for the call. I don't even know what canasta is. My aunt of a great memory used to play it with friends. I don't even know what canasta is. Don't call me on it. I am so not interested in mahjong. I'm more interested in rats and Chinese broth. Back in a minute.
Savage.
You heard me talk about super beats, right? Well, what is it actually? Well, if you bond nitrogen with oxygen, you create nitric oxide. And that's a molecule your own body makes, which fuels your cardiovascular health and helps keep you vibrant. But as we get older, our bodies need help with this important nutrient, right? So this 1 teaspoonful of Super Beets every day supports your cardiovascular health and blood pressure levels, and it gives you natural energy with no caffeine kick or sugar high. We're talking about real, healthy, natural energy. Stephen from Illinois says, quote, the Super Beets taste is pleasant, as is the increase in energy. It's a great caffeine substitute without the negative caffeine side effects. I want you to call 800-481-0504, 800-481-0504, go to SavageLovesBeats.com, SavageLovesBeats.com, so you can find out how you can get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets and free shipping with your first purchase. Feel the 1 + 1 = boom effects of Super Beets. Call 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeats.com. Today, I'm seeing a story here that's frightening and disturbing. Renowned professor dies mid-sentence during live TV broadcast. So she's in India. She appears on a Good Morning show, and she collapses mid-sentence. And the host appeared in shock when the guest fell back on the chair and started breathing heavily. They told the Indian Telegraph she was telling us a few interesting things about her life and was looking absolutely normal, but suddenly she stopped talking and began having hiccups. We had to cut the interview and switch to a documentary to attend her and take her to a hospital. Well, I asked the guys in my studio just now if I would have the same moment here on the Savage Nation, God forbid. Do they have anything ready to go? What would they have as a best of ready to go? What would they cut from that to an ad for like a health product or a car? No, I better pre-record something. If God forbid I should drop dead on the air. What if that happened? It does happen to people in their 30s. They get a blowout. Forget age. I'm talking about it could happen to you. But I never think about it. I did in the beginning, but now I've ignored that for a long time. But what if it happened? I have to create something. I better record something today after the show, guys. This is Michael Savage. I'm sorry that I just dropped dead on the air. I apologize in advance, but please go to Google, Amazon, and buy my new book, Stop Mass Hysteria. I could sell you my books in a moment that I die. Well, what should I do? What should be my own eulogy? It's a funny thing to think about on the way out of the theater, but I think I'll think about that tonight. Am I tempting fate? Yeah, I'm tempting fate, playing with fate, because I'm in a hyper-vigilant state right now owing to the time of year and the time in my life and the time in American history, and the timing of everything is very auspicious. So I better cut that as soon as possible.
Savage. Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
He would have stabbed me. I mean, he had it out saying, I'm going to kill you, MF, or I'm going to kill you. And I could see his thumb trying to get the knife out. He picks up the coffee cup to rear back to throw it at us. And I jump around the table. He throws the coffee cup. It misses us. It hits the ground and breaks. So I come out and grab him and wrestle him and throw him down to the ground. He's screaming, I'll kill you, MF, or I'll kill you, I'll kill you. And he's kind of circling me, trying to get the knife out.
That's a Republican congressional candidate named Rudy Peters describing attack by a left-winger who was incited to violence by you-know-who. He immediately got a lawyer, who I think the lawyer should be disbarred for what he says. Listen to the filthy, dirty lawyer in clip 4.
Point was afraid for his life, afraid for his health and safety, and I believe that he's alleged he pulls out a folded knife. Knife was never opened.
You know why we hate lawyers, don't you? You know why we hate lawyers, right? So someone tries to stab a congressional candidate. He gets a filthy, dirty left-wing lawyer who says that the man was afraid for his life, which is why he tried to stab the candidate. Okay, share of U.S. population born abroad hits 108-year peak. What does it have to do with that story? Well, look into who the stabber was. The foreign-born population in the U.S. has reached its highest share since 1910. New arrivals are more likely to come from Asia and to have college degrees than those who arrived in past decades. Now, that's a lie to begin with. The reason they're saying Asia is to cover up the Middle Eastern origin of most of them. They now call anyone from the Middle East an Asian. See how clever they are at the old York Times? New arrivals are more likely to come from Asia, make you think that they're all intelligent computer scientists from Shanghai. Major shift to who's coming to the U.S. For years, newcomers tended to be from Latin America. That means Mexico. When they say Latin America, it means Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador. They don't really mean Latin America. They don't mean Argentina. They mean Mexico. So everything they change in the New York Times. So now if they're from Pakistan or Lebanon, they're from Asia. But a Brookings Institution analysis, that's another left-wing front group, came from Asia. Just 39% were from Latin America. Mexico's now Latin America. About 45% were college educated. Yeah, you know what a college education is worth in those communities, don't you? It's not exactly a degree like I got. Anyway, you get the picture. There's no such thing as an immigrant who causes trouble here, even if he rapes a 13-year-old girl, even if he murders a Border Patrol agent. They're all welcome to the left wing. Why? Why is the left wing so fanatical about bringing in as many foreigners as possible? Here's another story from Breitbart. Illegal alien accused of murdering Molly Tibbetts given $5,000 in taxpayer money to fight the charges. Breitbart, John Binder. The illegal alien charged with murdering 20-year-old college student Molly Tibbetts has been granted $5,000 in American taxpayer dollars to fight the first-degree murder charges against him. Can you believe the country you're living in? It's like two nations here right now, and it's not a nation of Democrats and Republicans. It's a nation divided by other things. This is Michael Savage. The phone number is 855-400-7282. The storm blew out to sea as I predicted yesterday. They panicked you. They told you it was going to blow. Just as they panicked you about Trump and Russia and dropped that one when it blew out to sea, they came up with another panic a second later. Have you been abused by a priest? 44,000 women pressed the Pope over sex abuse. Have you left the church over this or for another reason? Should Google, Twitter, and Facebook be regulated by a securities type of organization like the FCC? We have a Federal Communications Commission which regulates television, radio stations, and newspapers. Why shouldn't we have the equivalent for Google, Facebook, and Twitter, which are bigger than newspapers ever were? Why? James on WABC, you say no, don't regulate. Tell me why.
Hi. First of all, it's a high honor and a privilege to talk to you, Dr. Savage. I'd like to give you my case why I think.
First of all, it's not a high honor. I don't have such a weak ego like other hosts who need you to say that. Without callers like you, there'd be no show at all. So it's my honor that you're on the show. But what's your point?
It's humble of you to respond like that, but I believe it's an honor for me. But in any case.
No, it's an honor for me. No, this is not like a Mel Brooks movie. No, it's an honor for you. No, it's an honor for me. No, it's an honor for you. Okay, but what's on your mind since it's an honor for you?
Fair enough. You have to let the free market work this out. There'll be a day that they won't be that powerful. If everybody you're loyal.
Let me answer you. You sound like an idealistic, true believer in the right-wing rhetoric, where you believe the free market actually exists, number one. And number two, you think that there's such a thing as a free market. There is no free market. Everything's regulated in this country, number one. And number two, when a when when a service becomes so large that it becomes a monopoly, there is no free market.
That's true. You're right.
No, I want you to think about it. It's not to defeat you, it's to make you think. The United States Justice Department has an antitrust division that was set up specifically to regulate companies like Google and such, to prevent them from becoming so big that they prevent competition from originating. That's why Standard Oil was broken up under Teddy Roosevelt. It had become a monopoly. Google is like Standard Oil under Teddy Roosevelt. The only thing is Trump has his hands tied defending himself against phantoms that don't even exist, created by companies. Now listen to what I'm about to say to you. Why do you think Mueller's investigation has gone on so long and Mueller has not been stopped, even though there's no Russia collusion? It's because, in my opinion, companies that are breaking the law and are monopolies are funding this hysteria against Trump to keep Trump and the Justice Department off their backs. Now, you haven't heard that anywhere else, but you just heard it here. These companies are complicit in the persecution of Donald Trump and the Russia collusion investigation in order to make sure that they're so tied up defending themselves that they can't take a look at these gigantic monopolies.
But I think there's a better way than regulating them.
Why? Why? Isn't your gas service in New York City regulated? Don't you have a regulation over the service that provides you electricity?
Yes, and I would love to. Okay, there's a difference between a natural monopoly and a monopoly. A natural monopoly has to be regulated when it doesn't make sense anywhere else.
Well, what is a natural monopoly as opposed to a fabricated monopoly?
The water lines is a natural monopoly. It doesn't make sense to have 1,000 water lines going into every single house, or like the famous AT&T, like cables going into every house. But you could prop up the competition if every single one of your loyal listeners use DuckDuckGo, and let's make them into something. And I don't work for them. I'm an electrician. I don't have anything to do with them or any other.
Well, why do you oppose breaking up Google? What is it that you oppose in breaking up a monopoly like that, especially when they discriminate against people whose political opinions they disagree with?
Look, I would love for Google to go under. I hate Google, but I think there's a better way.
I don't hate Google at all. I think they're a wonderful service, but they've gotten too big and too powerful. They're worse than Big Sister was ever imagined to be. They're worse than I imagined they would be in Xenon, Xenon, my science fiction novel that in 50 years people will look back and say the man was better than Jonathan Swift. But the fact of the matter is they're far beyond just a successful company. They become a purveyor, an information superhighway, and no one else can have a road running down that same line.
You're right.
Do you actually think that superhighway called Google could actually have a competitor that can realistically compete with them in the marketplace?
I believe there can be if you prop up and other people prop up their competition. Right now, they'll be in 10 years down the line. Maybe there'll be something to be able to compete. You know, people thought they'd never.
Well, right. There would be if there was an anti-monopoly move by the U.S. Justice Department, antitrust division against Google, Facebook, and Twitter. There would be competition. That's the whole point of it. They would make them open up other lines to competitors. In fact, they'd make them give up part of their company to competitors.
Dr. Savage, I think you're more powerful than you give yourself credit for. I think if you have your people, your audience, use DuckDuckGo, you can make the competition something of value.
I don't even know what site you're mentioning. Do you own it? Is that why you're calling?
No, I don't own it. I use any company. I don't care. We'll make another company for you.
What did you just name? What was the company you named? What was it called?
DuckDuckGo. I do not.
I can't even remember it. You should have named it Schmoogle if you wanted to get somewhere.
I don't own it. You can Google it. Somebody in Pennsylvania.
What's it called? Schmecka-Go?
I use it. You Google it. You know what? Google it.
What's the name of this company? Tell me the search engine.
DuckDuckGo, as in Duck, Duck, Goose.
I can't remember it. You see, it's a bad name. If it was called Schmoogle, maybe it would have a chance.
To use Bing, that's owned by Microsoft, but they're also a huge conglomerate, and
yeah, of course it is. That's right. There you go again. I know that there's Bing as a search engine, and it's very big, but it's owned by another monopoly.
That's what I wouldn't want.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, it's only a matter of time until these companies are investigated by the U.S. Congress, as the baby steps have been taken and they will be broken up. And I'll tell you, here's the curveball. It will come from the left rather than from the right. As sure as I'm standing here, there'll be a quicker move to break up these giant social networking organizations under anti-monopoly laws than from Donald Trump and the conservatives.
Dr. Savage, I hope it comes from the left because I don't want the...
All right. It will come from the left. Bernie Sanders would like to see these companies broken up, and he's 100% right on it. Even a cuckoo clock that doesn't work is right twice a day.
Savage.
To balance things out, many people listen to me. They say, I don't like his politics, but I love his stories. I hear that all the time from liberals. Moderate liberal people. I say, I don't like his politics, but I love when you tell stories about New York when you were a kid. That's all they want to hear about. It's like having Frank Sinatra sing My Way again. Or Elvis has to sing Jailhouse Rock when he doesn't want to sing it anymore. Elvis, we don't like your new songs. Just play the old songs. Tell us about One-Armed Frank. Hey, Elvis, why don't you tell us about Louie and the Monkey? Hey, Elvis, why don't you tell us about when the Leatherman gets cancer? Hey, Elvis, why don't you, so there's a lot of you don't want to hear my politics. You think that they're antiquated and outmoded, and they're based upon the fact that I'm an older guy and I grew up in a different time in America and I'm stuck in the past. Well, all of those things happen to be true, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong. Nor does it mean that my observations and values are not correct for America today. What, everything of the past must be thrown out because everything in the future is necessarily good? You believe that all progress is progress? I'm going to tell you the famous story about what progress is and what progress isn't. It's a very famous story about Antarctic explorers. They were reporting, no, actually it was Arctic explorers. They came off their ship, they were on the ice, and they were making daily reports of their progress towards a certain destination on their compass point. And they said and estimated they were moving at approximately 3 miles per day in a certain direction. What they didn't realize is they were on an ice floe that was moving in the opposite direction at 4 miles per day. So they're actually going backwards by a mile a day. That's what liberalism is. It's like those explorers on an ice floe. They report that they're moving forward and they're making progress when they're actually moving the country backwards into a most dangerous time. You see? That's a good observation for you to carry around in your head. But if you care to comment on any of this, okay, go ahead. It's a weird time right now in America. There's really nothing wrong and nothing to complain about when you actually think about it. There's no news. They call it a slow news day. There's a no news day. We're not at war. Trump didn't launch against Russia or Syria, thank God. Maybe they're coming to understand that I do speak for the vast number of people who voted for him who don't want war. Maybe it's filtering up. Maybe they understand that those of us are not all idiotic and we're not going to be dragged into a foreign war when Trump ran as an anti-interventionist. Who wants war with Syria right now, rather with Russia and Iran now over Syria? Nobody, except those in the war business. So I don't want war. Trump ran as a peace candidate, so we don't have war. The economy's booming. Everyone's fat and happy. There's no starvation. What's there to complain about? So now Dianne Feinstein comes up with some letter about something that Kavanaugh did with a girl in high school. I swear to God. And like the good communist Stalinist rat that she is, she says, I'm not going to talk about it, but she turns it over to the FBI to try to undermine Kavanaugh. How does she get away with it when she had a Chinese spy driving for her for 16 years who ran her office? How? Because the right doesn't fight. There are no conservatives left in this country in the Congress. Dianne Feinstein should be dragged before a Senate hearing and explain exactly how she did not know that the spy from China was driving her and running her office for 16 years. Moreover, what information did he steal? Do you know how many people must have died as a result of him? Our agents overseas in China and elsewhere because of Feinstein's lapse in security, if that's what it was. How does Dianne Feinstein get away with this? Who are her powerful friends? Is she the swamp itself? Is she the number one swamp creature? I'll let you figure that out. All I can say is this. There's a certain restaurant in San Francisco where I know she dines. If I go in there from time to time, I ask them, has Dianne Feinstein or Nancy Pelosi been here recently? And if they nod yes, I ask them, please break the dishes that they ate on, or I'll politely have to decline service and leave. They must not only provide proof that they washed their dishes, but that they broke the dishes and threw them in the trash can. That's how much I respect those two.
Savage.
It is the Savage Nation. So Cruz is in trouble there in Texas. He's got a real leftist running against him who's appeasing the illegal aliens in Texas, saying that we should have open borders, they should be given citizenship, and demographics, of course, is king, as you well know. So if you bring in enough illegal aliens, I guess you can't say that on Google, if you bring in enough illegal aliens or non-citizens and they outbreed the native population, eventually you change the nation to where they came from, and the nation falls into a third world state. Why anyone would want that is beyond me. That's how stupid they are. Liberalism is a mental disorder. Liberalism is truly a mental disorder. They don't think things through. They think that anything that Trump is for, they're against. So the economy is booming, and they don't like that either. I hear them talking sometimes in San Francisco, and I scratch my head, and I want to go up and say, excuse me, you don't look like you're suffering under Donald Trump. But I don't go up. I'm a public figure myself. I don't want to provoke. What do they hate him for so much? Do you have any idea? Other than what? Let's see. He's tall. He's white. He's fairly good looking. Women like him. He's heterosexual. He's married several times. He is a grandfather. And he's somewhat of a Christian. And his daughter converted to Judaism. I guess those are all strikes against him from the far left. Christopher on WABC Line 1, what's on your mind? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. And it's true, it is an honor to speak to you no matter what you say. Listen, I live in Manhattan, and today on the news they said that you can now, with a birth certificate, you can now choose whether the parents can choose whether you're male, female, or X.
Wait, you know what I don't understand is how would a parent know if the child's, let's say, sexually confused at birth?
But think of the child growing up. If he makes it to grade school without, like, changing that, and he's not gay and he's not weird, just think of the torment that he's going to get from the other.
Wait, why would you say a child is not a male? Let's say, I remember when a child was born, the nurse would come out and say, you have a daughter, and they, yay, or you have a son. Now, how would they know you're a daughter or a son, the child was a daughter or a son? By the secondary sexual characteristics, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if he had a penis, he was a boy. If he had a vulva, she was a girl. Now, how did that change? Tell me, where did I miss something in my growth?
Listen, why is transgenderism the only mental? I'm nervous talking to you. The only mental illness that we subsidize and we encourage.
Well, we don't know that it's a mental illness. A chief psychiatrist at Johns Hopkins says it's a mental illness. But if you were to say that, you'd be banned from Twitter and Google within 1 second.
But it's the truth. I mean...
Oh, well, what? Your truth is not the truth.
They put you away.
Well, I don't know. This is different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Years ago, you used to say on your intro, you're the man looking down on 3rd Avenue from...
I used to have a parable that I was like a guy sitting in an apartment.
Where were you
on the
living
second
then?
floor. I was living on 2nd Avenue in Manhattan. I would imagine I'm leaning on a window looking down at the world going by. Don't tell me you're that guy.
Wait, but was it on 67th Street? Did it have anything to do with a restaurant called Oscar Salt of the Sea?
I know the restaurant well. No, you lived there above that restaurant?
I did, years ago, yes. And there was a guy named Savage, I remember, because I used to work in the restaurant, too.
I'm busted. No, I'm joking. It was not me. But I would imagine I'd be happier there than I am staring here at seagulls all day long.
Okay, I've been meaning to ask you that for years about like where you were.
No, I imagine living there. I didn't live there. I still to this day think I'm going to move back to New York one day, but that's nostalgia. You can't go home again. I would never fit in. I wouldn't last a day. The liberalism of New York would get to me immediately.
How is it that the mayors and governors of New York and California aren't in jail for subverting federal laws as far as voting?
If you bring in enough illegal aliens who outbreed the local population, what you do is you create a new nation, not under God, but under the politician.
De Blasio said today that his son was denied the right to vote, and he wants to make there be same-day registration for voting in New York.
You mean you could just come in from a foreign country and vote with no ID?
He went to vote today with the voter card he was sent to, and they wouldn't let him vote.
Oh, again, he's screaming discrimination and racism?
Yes.
He's gotten him very far, de Blasio.
Listen.
How come he changed his German name to an Italian name? Where'd that come from?
I know.
Why did de Blasio change his name from a German name to an Italian name? When did that happen?
I didn't know he did. Are you being serious?
Oh, absolutely. That's not his name. De Blasio is a made-up name.
But why did he go home to Italy and make New York City pay for his security?
It's not even his home country.
Wife and family a couple years ago.
Go look up de Blasio's original name. It's of a German name. But his name is not important. What's important is the fact that he's like a Sandinista running New York. And apparently there are enough illegal aliens and enough left-wingly insane people that they actually think he's a good mayor.
Yes.
No, but your main point is, are you serious that you can name your child M, male, female, or X?
No, you not name it. You could put down the birth certificate. There are 3.
Okay, but how could a parent know if the child is an X at birth? Tell me how they would know that.
That's why I'm saying it's so insane.
Well, it is. It's a mark against the child's future. What if the child is a male and it grows up to be a really strong macho male and wants to enlist in the special forces? But when the child goes to enlist in the special forces, he has to check X, not male?
What can I tell you? I mean,
well, maybe by then they'll only accept people marked X. Maybe you'll have to be an X to enlist in the Marines in 20 years at the rate things are going. Look, the world is insane. You know that, and I know that. You know the world has gone off the rails. We're living in a totally insane asylum here. And no matter how you try to make sense of an insane world, you'll go crazy if you keep doing it. And what you have to do is tend your own garden, hold your own belief system, try not to let the left get you totally crazy, and go on your merry way, because otherwise you go crazy. I tell it to people in my own family who get upset. I say, you know what? Don't try to change things. I do it for you every day. That's what I do on this show. For 25 years, I've tried to correct things. I've tried to make things right. I made a little dent. I did help elect the president in a big way. So I've already made an important contribution to the society. But the average person really, at a certain level, can't do that. You can't do it. You'll go crazy.
I mean, that's just a fact.
Well, I'm going to send you a copy of Stop Mass Hysteria. I suggest you not carry it around in New York. You'll get beaten to death by the hysterics who claim that they're liberal. They'll pummel you to death. So if you carry it, put it in the plain brown wrapper. That's the kind of times we're living in. Stop Mass Hysteria goes out to you. Oh, no, I'm not right back. That would have been a nice break, but it's not ready for a break. Let's have a little Latin music, Clint. I need some Latin music. I don't know what's wrong today. I don't feel, I feel good. I don't feel like I'm going to die on the air, but I don't know. My mind is not. Who is this? Celia Cruz? She doesn't move me. Break her. I don't want to break that record. I'm not into Celia Cruz. I never was, even as a kid. Never liked her. Is that sexist that I didn't like female vocalists even as a kid? I only like male vocalists. It's a sexist thing. I like the macho energy on a dance floor because I'm not an X. This is Michael XY Savage. That feels good. I'm drinking a lot of tea lately. It's ancestral. I think I'll get a samovar in the studio. I still like samovars. Samovar. Tea brewing all the time. Turks drink a lot of tea. Tea is very energizing. It's not just the caffeine. There's hardly anything on earth that tea can't cure. I know it's not chirogenics, but it works. I know Mark Wahlberg probably doesn't have a cup of tea every day. All right, turn off the music. You see, here's the problem. I wrote God, Faith, and Reason. It was a beautiful book. My whole life and heart and soul went into it, right? It did well. It was not allowed to be on television. The girls of Murdochville didn't permit it on TV, even though they tell behind the scenes, they tell my publisher when they publish a book, oh, I love Michael Savage. Can I please be on a show to promote my book? And the answer always is, well, how about some reciprocity? You love Michael Savage, you know you love his show, you grew up on it, but you can't have him on your show. Why? Who's blocking him? No answer. That's the last that you hear from it. And he shall judge between the nations and shall decide for many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, Isaiah 2.4. Now, liberals love that. In fact, there's a liberal group called Plowshares. I'm all for peace, aren't you? But I believe in peace through strength. So I'd be the last one to take my Colt 45 and beat it into a plowshare. I won't do that. I'm going to not beat my Colt into a plowshare. No, sorry, Bob. Burning Man, a covenant with all the ills of the world, East of Eden, the Garden of Eden, Exodus, the Ten Commandments, Dominion. I saw the judge has blocked the killing of bears for another few days. I'm so angry at the Interior Department under Zinke. It really gets me sick. This guy's like an animal murderer. I'm not supposed to say it. I know there goes the Christmas and the Hanukkah invitation to the White House. But I really don't care. U.S. judge delays grizzly bear hunts in Rockies 2 more weeks. These poor animals. Can you imagine men so impotent and so weak and so fearful of their own masculinity that they go out and hunt innocent animals? You think that's macho? You know, the most macho men I know don't hunt. And I mean men who are war heroes, men who have fought in combat, men who still have bullets in their bodies, will not kill an innocent animal. U.S. judge on Thursday delayed for 2 more weeks the first grizzly bear hunt in the lower 48 states in almost 30 years, saying he needed more time to consider if federal protections for the animal should be restored. The ruling by U.S. District Judge Dana Christensen left the fate of the Bruins in and around Yellowstone National Park in limbo, more than a year after federal officials declared the population had recovered from their extermination. Up to 23 bears in the hunts planned in Wyoming and Idaho. Christensen already delayed them once in an order that came 2 days before grizzly season was set to open on September 1. In extending the delay, the judge said there remained serious questions regarding whether the government acted lawfully in lifting protections on an estimated 700 bears in the 3-state Yellowstone region. Wildlife advocates and Native American tribes requested the additional 2-week delay, good for them, after suing the government to restore the bear's threatened species status. Attorneys for the federal government and the states of Idaho and Wyoming opposed the delay. Judge Christensen said it was justified because killing up to 23 bears would cause irreparable injury to those who want grizzlies protected. This is a good judge. So when I wrote the relationship between God and nature and what the word dominion means in God, faith, and reason, this is, I think, probably one of the most important parts of the book. In other words, if you read Exodus, it's about man shall have dominion over all, right? According to Genesis, rather, God told Adam and Eve the following: be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over everything living, every living thing that creepeth upon the earth. So the less intelligent amongst us, the murderers, the animal killers, think that dominion means killing everything on earth. That means shooting birds out of the sky. That means stealing the eggs from the bird. That means slaughtering bears, and that means killing bear cubs. That means killing everything that walks on the earth. Well, there are some things in the Bible that I don't happen to agree with. Does that make me an anti-religious person, I ask? And I say no. I would say that people must evolve past the original message. I mean, we don't kill adulterers anymore, do we? Do we kill homosexuals? Of course not, unless you're a throwback, retrograde Islamist. There are many things in the Bible that must be taken in the context of the times, and one of them is the passage I quoted above. What does have dominion really mean? Does it mean you should slaughter animals mercilessly and eat them? I don't think so. In fact, I interpret having dominion to mean protecting them. That's in my last book called God, Faith, and Reason, which is my legacy. My books are my legacy. By the way, Bill de Blasio's original name was Warren Wilhelm Jr. Look it up, Warren Wilhelm Jr. So if he had been running for office as Bill Wilhelm, he probably would have not gotten anywhere. So he changed his name to de Blasio and got his start in Little Italy. Now look where he is. I'll be back.
Savage.
Let me talk for a minute about unexpected surprises. You take your car in for an oil change. Mechanic says, uh-oh, something's wrong. You get hit with the thousands of dollars in repairs for nothing. It's happened to me when I was younger. Well, if you have extended vehicle protection from CarShield, you don't have to worry anymore. It's a good deal. Look, if your car breaks down after the manufacturer's warranty expires, you can be out of pocket thousands to get it fixed, right? So CarShield makes the process of fixing your car for a covered repair very easy. You can use your own mechanic, dealership, your choice. They also give you 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is being fixed for free. Here's what to pay attention to. You can qualify if your car has 5,000 to 150,000 miles. Then you could apply, and it means you don't have to pay high repair bills. And CarShield has paid out close to $2 billion in claims. It's a good deal. They're on the level. So save yourself thousands in future car repairs. Get covered by the ultimate in extended vehicle coverage. Call 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. It's simple. 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. Or go to carshield.com, code SAVAGE. And you'll save 10%. That's carshield.com, code SAVAGE. Or call 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. As this hour comes to a conclusion, I ran a contest on Twitter, which will not make it to any newspaper or show in America. I am blocked by every other talk show host in the country they're just jealous of my intellect. And you can win a free hardcover copy of Stop Mass Hysteria by posting the best quote about this book. I put it up on Twitter and Facebook. And those with the most likes are going to win free books. And some of the statements are interesting. And I'm going to read you a few of them. Let's see what someone wrote here. Stop Mass Hysteria reminds me of James Joyce's great novel, The Dubliners, where from the first page, you are unexpectedly brought to the movies. In this case, the movie is similar to a mass exorcism, where one man of unprecedented will is exorcising demons in the name of God. Jason Milligan writes, The New Bible for the Human Condition. Stop Mass Hysteria by New York Times bestselling author Michael Savage is a guide to soothe and understand the pandemonium going on in the world today. Well, people look like they got digital copies already. They must have read it. Buy Stop Mass Hysteria before the masses stop you. I hope they don't ban it in the bookstores. I pray the left doesn't try to burn the books or throw them out of the stores. That's all I hope doesn't happen, because there will be an army of reaction.
Michael Savage, a host like no other.